Like, comment, and subscribe to J New Orleans.
All my sentient life, I've always heard the same sentence: the economy is bad. When I was a child, the economy was bad. As a teenager, same thing. Adult, same thing. When jobs were available, still the economy was bad. When they disappeared, same thing. When homes were cheap, people said the economy was bad. Now homes are expensive and people still say the economy is bad. So at some point, I had to ask myself a real question: is the economy actually always bad? Like, does it ever have a good day? Like that person who always complaining, like, is it ever good? Or have some people inherited a mindset where every season of life feels like the sky is falling? Because the truth is, both of them could be true. There are real economic problems. Inflation is real. Housing costs, low wages, debt, the rising costs of raising kids, the pressure of trying to survive in a society that keeps upgrading the definition of basic is real. But there is another truth that people really don't admit. The economy can be difficult and your mindset can be making it worse. Fear does not make people wiser. It does not make them more strategic or more disciplined. It usually weakens the response. It makes people reactive. It makes people impulsive. It makes people cling to whatever looks safe, even if the safe thing is the same thing keeping them stuck. Like, an average example would be, for the average person, you can think about something or a situation in the past that you experienced, that thinking back now, you see all types of opportunities that you missed. But in that moment, it felt like you did the best you could do, or that what you worked with was all you had to work with. But when you look at it from a future standpoint, you see where you messed up. That's how it is now. Like, we still in the present, but our this is going to be the past to our future. We're going to be in the future dissecting what we did now or what we didn't do. And that's why, hopefully, over so many videos, I can give a point of how to feel comfortable in life. Not as far as being comfortable, but feeling comfortable, having acceptance, having understanding that good and bad come. But as far as bad, like, a lot of the bad that people who not aware experience, they be contributing to it. And you never want to tell somebody that while they bleeding, that they cut themselves open. But we growth is important for any shape, fast form. Look, I'd be so nervous at the beginning of the videos. I don't even know why, because it's a camera thing. I don't really like cameras like that. But yeah, like, when it comes to growth, it's important. No matter what you're gonna be doing in life, you have to grow. Like, you have to grow, you have to learn, you have to understand. Like, that is why it is so important, no matter what language you speak, to be able to fully read and understand your language. Because when you're going out into the world, the language is on contracts, the language is on prices, the language is on terms and conditions. And it's like people being proud of being ignorant and making it a whole personality trait, but you're going to lose, because at the end of the day, there are people out there who want what you have. Some people want you for your body, some people want you for your resources. Even if you may be broke to yourself, if you're in debt, you making people rich. Like, if you $100,000 in debt, that's $100,000 plus interest guaranteed to someone else. So it's important for people to just learn and grow. If you really feel miserable in life, build up your defense system. You are a kingdom, even though people not royalty, but you are a kingdom, and other people want to invade your kingdom and make it a part of theirs. Everyone does. Even though, when you look at, I'm gonna just continue on the script and see if we get there. Like, there are real, okay, it makes people reactive, and that is where this conversation begins. Not with the stock market, not with the president, not with rich people, not with poor people, but with the mind. Because a person who sees every economic shift as the end of the world is going to move differently than the person who sees it as a season. And history has shown us something very clearly: nothing lasts forever. Not the boom, crash, job market, industry trends, not even the version of you that thinks this is all you can become. And I think too, when we get to a certain level, or maybe depending on what some people have been through, sometimes we can be afraid of change because it triggers a memory of the last time you experienced change and things changed for the worse. Like how I used to hear at jobs where people would put up with bad supervisors because their mindset was that all supervisors are bad. So if we get rid of master, next master gonna be even worse. So yeah. And when people say the economy is bad, they often say it as if the economy is one giant machine that treats everybody the same. But it does not. The economy is not one thing, it is housing, wages, interest rates, food costs, transportation, education, healthcare, debt, technology, business ownership, stocks, real estate, skills. It is who owns assets and who only owns bills. So when someone says the economy is bad, the better question is bad for who? Bad for the person living paycheck to paycheck? Probably. The person trying to buy their first home? Very likely. Especially if you come across one of those scam realtors out there that's doing scams with the buying the houses that's in really horrible condition, painting over the horrible condition, and then putting it on the market as renovated. But that's a different video. Bad for someone with a variable interest loan? Absolutely. Bad for someone with no emergency fund? Definitely. But is it bad for the person with cash waiting for assets to drop? Is it bad for the person learning a skill that is becoming more valuable? Is it bad for the person who understands where the market is going next? Or the person who can pivot while everyone else is panicking? Not always. That is the uncomfortable part. A bad economy for one person can be a clearance sale for another. And that is because life is fair. Not because life is fair. But the real life example is 2020. Think about 2020. If anyone was aware that the stock market crashed in 2020 and people ended 2020 with more wealth than they started it out with, because money has to have a destination. Unless money is destroyed completely, or like it's some type of person from a different country just completely scamming people and taking the money away, the money still exists. It just don't exist with you. It's kind of like how they say energy can't be destroyed, only transferred. When you spending money, you're not destroying money, you transferring it to someone else. So when you look at your closet and it's full, but your bank account not, and your gas tank not, or your outfit clean, but your home not, and your car not, just know that all of that energy that you put in to get that resource, you've just given it to someone else just to visually look like something. Even though there are people who struggle and go overboard with treating themselves because if you have any adults that were poor financially established people, then you definitely were instilled that as a kid. And it's like continuing that and not realizing that a lot of the financial related issues we have, if we go down the chain, we can see where it was probably a year we spent 30, 40, $50,000 on stupid stuff, but then the next year we end up $10,000 in debt, or $10,000 be the amount of money that we needed to have a decent year, and we don't have it. But that's, again, a different video. And it's because preparation changes how a person experiences chaos. The Federal Reserve's 2024 Economic Well-Being Survey found that 73 of US adults said they were okay doing okay or living comfortably, while only 29% rated the national economy as good or excellent. Excellent. Now, see, that's they going too far. Ain't no excellent. What? That contradiction matters because people can be surviving personally while still feeling the larger system is unstable. The same report found that 60% of adults said higher prices had worsened their finances, and 63% could cover a $400 emergency with cash or its equivalent. That explains the contradiction. People are surviving, but they're stressed. They're working, but they're stretched. They're buying, but they're nervous. They're earning, but they're not always building. And that is why the phrase the economy is bad has to be unpacked, because sometimes it means the economy is truly unstable, but sometimes it means that a person may not understand what's happening. They may not feel prepared. They may not know how to adapt. They may be emotionally overwhelmed. They were taught to panic, not plan. Honestly, adult age is one thing, but I'm starting to believe that many people do the bare minimum to feel like an adult, or they meet the standards that whatever society they live in made them feel like as an adult. But I noticed that it's very common. I'm not going to, quantify the number, but that you see adults that have the problem solving ability of a newborn, not even a toddler. Like a lot of the kids these days, and kids as time go on, they get more and more advanced, and you see a lot of child prodigies. But the way that so many people become explosively sad or explosively angry at the turn of anything, to where a door slam could set them off, or just a 1 cent change in prices. Like when I did customer service, I definitely understand the people addressing the price change, because even if it's a penny, it is their money. However, I did not understand the rage over the phone, because any adult with sense would know that when you call customer service, you're calling your friend. You're calling a person who is trying to make an income and trying to feed whatever, whoever, and do whatever, just like you are. And they are the representative of the rich company that you feel like is wronging you. So when people explode, it's always strange to me, and it's always weird that hypocrisy is much more common than people realize. Like it's so many hypocrites out there from every level, to where they literally can do and say whatever towards you, and they don't want anything done towards them. And that is immaturity to me. And that also is the reason why no matter what category they seek success in, it's never going to happen. It'll be short-lived, or it'll be enough content to pretend to be happy on social media, but people will continue to fail because the morals are not there, the ethics are not there, integrity is not there. And then taking responsibility, the amount of people who try to use poverty as an excuse when they don't fit the mold of poverty. There are people who really do fit the mold of poverty at every angle, but it is a lot of people who just continuously make bad financial decisions. And the way they pacify that is by pretending that they are a part of the poverty community, and they're not. But what happens is every chance they get, they shit and shine on the poverty community to show them that they better than them. But then when the real world looks at them and say, "Hey, Mr. Designer, hey, Mrs. Luxury Car, why are you in the hood?" Or why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? They immediately try to shield themselves with, "Oh, how dare you speak on people being in poverty, and look at the economy and all of that." But the thing about it is, these things definitely impact people, but it doesn't impact everyone you see trying to fall under that. I noticed that when people find an umbrella of sympathy, everyone tries to squeeze under it. And if you really look at the internet now, you see that people trying to be multiple things at one time. You will see them in one category of content bashing people. You will see them in another category of content being a victim and, "Oh, nobody understands me." Then you'll see them in another category of content being delusional. So section 2, fear makes and weakens decision making. Fear is useful when there is an immediate, well, actually, before that too, one thing I will tell you is that as far as the whole economy thing goes, the people who are in charge of these systems, and who work with the people in charge of these systems, and who build new systems, because it's always different systems. It's not just one old system that we all are part of. It's many subsystems as well. And what I notice is that they see how people react to different things. Like if there was news of war, how people act. If there's news of an illness or news of natural disaster. And what they've done is, especially with social media, given real time reactions of how people feel, they do test runs on people, and what they've been doing is inserting themselves in the different stages of panic that people feel. Like they know that people panic buy, so they'll position something for you to panic buy so that you feel a certain way. They know that people are afraid of missing out, so they constantly presenting things to you that seem like it's limited, so that it could squeeze all kinds of people into it. Or even the whole concert thing, Them people been aware of concert tickets being scalped. They make a percentage from the scalpers, so they make money regardless. Like when it comes to money, these people, that's what they here for. And a lot of people start thinking that people care about them because the people pretended they cared about them for so long, or maybe they did an act of a calculated act of kindness. But no, that's probably why. And not to mention, people who feel like the economy bad, if you look at the people in your life and the people who raised you and just look at everything related to it, you were raised in a group of working people. You were raised with ideals that's going to keep you needing a job. You wasn't raised with people who knew how to make things work no matter what, and knew that the main goal was family, love, healing, helping others, community. You got lost in the game in the material world. And it's like, it honestly, people gonna have to take drastic measures if they want to grow from this, because again, influence is strong. When the people in our lives definitely influence us, and then a lot of people I've seen are still people pleasing. So that's that baby, change is almost impossible if you're a people pleaser, because you're always going to be thinking about what the people around you think. But okay, fear is useful when there is an immediate danger. If a car is coming towards you, fear can make you move, but fear can also become dangerous when it becomes your permanent operating system. When fear stays too long, it stops protecting you and starts programming you. You stop analyzing, you start assuming, you stop planning, you start bracing, you stop asking, what can I do? You start repeating something bad is going to happen. And once your mind gets addicted to danger, peace starts to feel suspicious. That is why some people can find the negative in anything. Give them an opportunity, they will show you the risk. If you give them a solution, they will show you how that's not going to work. You give them a new idea, they will remind you of someone who failed. You give them hope, they will call it unrealistic. But then they'll have hope with no substance or no proof that it is even possible, which leads to a level of delusion. But gossip, complaining, doom predictions, conspiracy, that flows naturally because negativity becomes the language of the environment. And in some families, fear is not even treated like fear, it is treated like wisdom. The person who worries the most is seen as the most realistic. The person who expects failure is seen as the most prepared. The person who doubts everything is seen as the smartest person in the room. But sometimes that is not wisdom. Sometimes that is trauma wearing a suit. That is disappointment pretending to be intelligence. And it's inherited fear calling itself common sense. And I definitely know it personally, especially people who are close with their toxic family members. They love to repeat the idiotic quotes that they people live by because it kept them alive, not realizing it kept them stagnant. And I've also seen the doom and gloom move through family like an heirloom. Some people inherit land, others pass down recipes, businesses, or emotional survival systems, but others inherit the belief that everything is about to fall apart. When you grow up around that long enough, you do not just hear it, you absorb it. You start expecting betrayal, failure, loss, every blessing to come with a hidden punishment. Then when life gets hard, you do not see it as a temporary season. You see it as confirmation. See, I knew this would happen. That is how people become emotionally loyal to failure, because not because they want to fail, but because failure seems familiar. And it also, failure is a culture now. Like they literally have intertwined all of the different flaws, societal flaws that one person could have, and they call it culture. And it's even glamorized in music to be a crash out, to just do all types of crazy things. And that's the weak point. Another weak point for people are influenced by what other people do, so putting it into music was the best way to make stuff happen. You could literally do anything with music because it goes viral quickly if it's a nice beat, a catchy hook, or relatable or something like that. Especially on the internet, not just music with content. The fact that no matter what a person believes, if you make a video about it, somebody's gonna relate to it. And then for people who may fear change or who duck and change, when they see stuff that reinforce their toxic mindset, they automatically feel like they don't need to change. So that's a group of people that's never gonna change, even though it's like people look for change, like if we waiting for snow on Christmas Day, but that's not really something that's our business. When it comes to a person and they journey in life, that's their business. That's like being on the road. You don't know what GPS the other people have, like what route they have on their map, unless you see in their car. But for the most part, you don't know what route all these other people going. So y'all might have the same few turns and the same few red lights together, but then you might not ever see that car again. And there is a connection between traumatic experiences and the failure mindset. When someone grows up around instability, they may not learn how to plan. They learn how to brace. They learn how to read the room, expect disappointment, survive emotional weather, predict chaos before it arrives. That can be useful in a dangerous environment. But once the danger passes, the nervous system may not get the message. The person may become an adult who still moves like the floor can fall out any second. And also, some people are self sabotagers and they don't realize it. So the reason why their failure rate is a 100% guarantee is because they're doing it. And that's the connection to shadow work. Shadow is the part of you that actually exists, but you don't admit that it exists. And I've witnessed it. Those people who always saying things are too good to be true, either through friendship, relationship, jobs, those people be the ones messing the stuff up. And then when it gets messed up, they immediately feel like it was a prophecy, but not realizing it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, if any. And they may hear opportunity and search for the trap. They may hear advice and search for judgment. They may hear encouragement and search for disrespect. They hear possibility and immediately begin grieving the imaginary failure. And that is why scammers love y'all, because with scammers say and do whatever they need to get you to do what they want. And the fact that a lot of people with that mindset overrun their mouth, they overrun how they feel about everything, that's a scammer's paradise, because now they know what talking points to come through. And the fact that so many people can't even listen for 5 seconds while someone is speaking to them, and everyone loves to talk. You see it on these panels all of the time. And with scammers, they love a talkative person because that means you're going to give them all the information they need. They don't have to work for nothing. All they have to do is be a good listener, because people love to overtalk, and they'll even trick you into overtalking them because they know how a lot of people do not listen to actually have a conversation. They listen in waiting for to throw out their words, because they brain, before the person even spoke, they brain already have a sentence either they copied offline or that they just say generically when they want to feel like they sophisticated. So yeah. And this mindset can be inherited, not genetically in a simple sense, but socially, yes, and environmentally. Children learn what adults repeat. If every adult around you says people like us never win, you may start believing that. If every adult around you says the economy is bad, you may start seeing the economy as a monster instead of a system, which people, I honestly find too, people be speaking on things that they're not even a part of. Economy is for people who actually are part of the economy cycle. It's people who don't even have an income coming in talking about what the economy doing. Baby, you have no idea. Like, and if every adult around you says you can't trust anybody, you may confuse isolation with intelligence. And people who always talk about can't trust, they be the ones who trust the most and also be the most shiesty people at the same time. Honestly, trust is something that happens whether you realize it or not. Anytime you go out in public, you're putting trust into everything. You put in trust into everyone on the road around you. You put in trust in your vehicle. You put in trust in whatever businesses you frequent, especially for my people who love to eat out. Like, you putting trust in multiple different people every single day. So cut the cap. If every adult around you survives by complaining, spending, escaping, and blaming, you may think this is adulthood. And then one day you become grown. The fear is still a child. It still remembers. It still flinches. It still expects life to punish hope. That is why healing is not just about feeling better. Healing is about updating your internal operating system, because some people are not reacting to the economy in front of them. They're reacting to every unstable season they have ever survived. And also, too, to say the economy bad, a lot of people who depend on their income, Y'all don't have no problem risking y'all job for a social media post. Like that, or one day I had gave myself an hour of dash cam footage to watch on YouTube because I limit how much I watch content, especially mindless content. And the amount of people that was getting arrested for different crimes and immediately will start crying about their kids or their house or whatever. But it's like you did this crime over a span of 3 years. At any point, you could have set it up for your children to be straight or for them to have something situated, and you chose not to do that. And it's like I we have to understand that yes, a lot of people share pain and things like that, but everyone is not in the same group. Like it's immediately a thing for people to see someone have a similarity to them and then automatically group themselves together and then automatically think everything that happens to them happens in the same way. But you have to realize your struggle may be real. A lot of people struggles are either manufactured or self-inflicted. And that makes a world of a difference. And honestly, I think too the amount of the way that the internet absorbs people into other people's lives, that's not healthy. Like, and the people lean into that. They keep the attention by constantly leaking their own information. And no matter how many exposés come out over the years and show you how flawed all of the media is, people still fall for it every time. It's not supposed to be stuff that you beefing with people in real life over, or you having physical emotions for stuff off the internet. Is like they have drama every day, baby. You're gonna be mad, upset, debating, arguing, rage, reacting every day. And the obsession with perfect conditions. A lot of people are not waiting for a plan, they're waiting for perfect conditions. Perfect job, home, lover, kids, body, timing, economy, president, market, and mood. Because perfection never arrives, they never begin. They keep saying, I'm going to start, I'll do it later. I need to learn financial literacy. I need to get serious. I need to get organized. I need to save money. I need to change careers. I need to stop spending like this. But I need to becomes a lullaby, rockabye, because you go cry because the stuff you saying is nothing but a lie. It soothes them just enough to avoid action because saying you are going to change gives you a little emotional reward without requiring the pain of actually changing. And this is where emotions become dangerous. We naturally experience emotions. That is human. But sitting inside every emotion as if it deserves a throne, that is different. Just because you feel discouraged does not mean you're defeated. When you're afraid, it doesn't mean danger is present. When you feel behind, it doesn't mean the race is over. If you feel unprepared, that doesn't mean that it's impossible to prepare. Feelings are indicators. They're not always instructions. To be honest, I think that r- slow brains are probably more common than we let on. Like they may it being slow may actually be a human thing, and intelligence may be a rarity for humans because the amount like how weak people are, it amazes me. That is why now like I can't take nobody serious because the amount of energy that people can put towards anger and crying simultaneously will never not amaze me. Like a lot of these people with these issues, they quick to have criticism for other people. They're probably the people who always talking about other people or always sending you stuff that other people posted. And it's like, meanwhile, they drowning in their own life. It's amazing. And that's really the facade that a lot of people are in shock of, is that like majority of these people don't have, like, if you looked at people and they stats popped up over their head like a video game of all of these stats of the different things you insecure about, baby, you would be shocked. So, but The scary part is feeling broke, there is a payday loan. Feeling lonely, there is an app. Feeling unattractive, there is a procedure. Feeling behind, there is a guru. Feeling anxious, there is a shopping cart. Feeling unsuccessful, there is a luxury item with monthly payments. And the scary part is many systems create the pressure, then sell the solution. But people only remember the solution. They never connect it back to the origin of the problem. And you only live once. You only live once can be beautiful when it means take the trip after you planned it, telling people you love them, which I've been telling people I love them since I could remember. And that being the I love you person is is a weird place because people do not always love you. They just around, and they may not even be that calculated to have plotted this whole grand scheme to just completely finesse you. But once people see that you're not going anywhere and you tolerate stuff, they really don't be planning on letting you go because that be the reassurance they need. Because in real life, they majority of the time can't maintain healthy relationships, or they don't be healthy themselves. So you be like the anchor person to them. And stop waiting forever. Try the thing that scares you. Live with intention. But a lot of people use you only live once like they have a medical prognosis with 3 weeks left to live, except they don't have 3 weeks left to live. They might have 40 more years or less if you text and drive. 40 more years of payments of interest, rent, insurance, food prices, emergencies, consequences from decisions they made while trying to feel alive for one weekend. This is where impulsive behavior hides behind philosophy. I deserve this. Maybe you do. Not really. The people who be saying I deserve this, they don't be deserving shit. But that's their money and it's free will. Remember, free will. But nah, they don't be deserving it. It be they buy stuff that they break or lose or damage and stuff like that. But you do deserve the stress that comes with it. I work hard. Yes, you do. But does working hard mean every dollar has to be emotionally spent before it could become structurally useful? Which is crazy because when you really look at the people who own the companies that the average person spending money with, them owners of them companies are not spending the way that you spend. Like, yeah, exactly. That is why you should not spend the only life you have creating problems for the future version of yourself. The future you is not a stranger. That is still you. That version of you who has to open the bill, who has to rebuild the credit, who has to ask why there is no savings, who has to explain why 5 years pass and the same problem is still sitting in the same chair. This is one of the most dangerous parts of doom thinking. When people believe everything is going to fail anyway, they stop respecting the future. They spend tomorrow like tomorrow is fake. They procrastinate like consequences are imaginary. They ignore financial literacy because deep down they do not believe learning will change anything. That is not freedom. That is despair dressed up as spontaneity. Also, too, those people who don't see themselves, their future selves as a person, that could possibly be a symptom of not having self-awareness because it takes for you to see your current self as a whole person and look through the different things that you find within yourself and to compare it to the past person that was a whole person that you were not aware of and you were not actively moving in the body suit of a whole person to also make the connection of what that future whole person is going to have to deal with. And not to mention, when it comes to trying to pull people out of these things, especially thinking that money was the only issue, people have to realize money is a problem and everyone may need it in countries that run like the US. However, you still have to develop as a person. Like that is why you see situations where money is present and unhappiness still exists. Money is present and problems still occur because you still have to develop yourself. People legit be putting so much value on how much a person money has. That's a Freudian slip because money do have the person. How much money a person has, or how much person the money has, and they forget about actual qualities. Is this person honest? Are they an abuser? Are they dangerous? But what I see in the working mind and poverty mind part of society, They worship money. So it really does not matter as long as a person is rich. And people will also pretend online like they will not do and say certain things. But in real life, if you have enough money, you could buy anyone. Like, and inflation has changed the bare minimum. Major reason people will feel like the economy is bad is because the bare minimum keeps getting more expensive. The basics are not basics as they used to be. Housing costs more, food costs more, transportation costs more, childcare, insurance, healthcare, education, even staying connected to society costs money. Phone, internet, apps, subscriptions, gas, repair, fees, replacements, and many people are still emotionally attached to an old version of survival. They want the reality where one income could carry an entire household comfortably. They want the reality where two incomes automatically meant wealth. But it depends. Two incomes with no plan can still be broke. Two incomes with lifestyle inflation can still be stressed. Debt, car notes, childcare, rent, and no savings can still feel like like one missed check from collapse. And this is where people have to be honest. The bare minimum has increased. And with internet influence, the bare minimum for your personal life may not be what you think you actually live in. Like how some people think, oh, all I just need is a house, a car, and this, and this. No, that's not true. If you look at your spending habits over the last 5, 10 years, you need way more than that because you consistently bought this, you consistently bought that. So I mean, either you could give those things up or you can consciously navigate your income to where you can comfortably attain those things. But also keep your brain out of other people's household because we all are the ones who sleep wherever we sleep every night and feel however we feel about where we wake up the next morning. All of this comparison stuff is not good at all, or even the amount of time y'all spend online, because what's happening is the brain is being tricked into thinking that y'all know these people in real life. You don't realize why some people have a habit of sleeping with and being friends with their coworkers. Is because when you're around people for so long, you start to see them as a part of your community. So the fact that y'all are on the internet all day long, looking at all of these different, posts and stuff and interacting with these different people, your brain is including them in your community. So yeah, that's why people who separate from the internet or take breaks or detox or just do different things where they have enough alone time, they reconnect with themselves on a human level. Because really, all of this stuff is making people become like clones, like the clones they claim other people are. And the bare minimum has increased, but luxury has also crept into what many people call basic. Constant replacement has become normal. Phones used to last until they broke. Now people replace them because a new one came out. Furniture used to be a long term purchase. Now entire rooms get replaced for aesthetics. Clothes used to be seasonal. Now trends change weekly. Vacations used to be special. Now some people feel like they're failing if they're not outside every month. Kids costs have increased. Also, too, PS5, y'all need to be sued because how the PlayStation 1 was buy the game, maybe buy a memory card, maybe a little accessory, I don't remember. I don't think they had webcam on PlayStation. And that was it. You buy the game and that's it. Baby, now you buy the game and you gotta buy the characters, you gotta buy their clothes, you gotta buy their house. Your characters be living better than some of us. Not to mention, then they have the PlayStation Plus subscription. It's like they do all of this stuff because they know that people value these things. That is why updating your values is important, because everything that you're willing to spend money on and complain but still spend it, you value that, whether you admit it or not. Like how the price of food, all of these different trash ass restaurants keep going up, but people still gonna be there for their weekend selfies because they value them places, and that's why those people get away with that. Or the fact that people feel like these cities is doing bad, but somehow the same politicians still get elected. So you value that. And it may not be a conscious value, it's a subconscious value, but you're treating it with value. And so has the culture around kids, birthday parties, matching outfits, travel sports, devices, shoes, photo shoots, events, experiences, prom send offs. The pressure to give children a beautiful life has become expensive. And sometimes the performance of parenting becomes just as costly as parenting itself. The Bureau of Labor Statistics track consumer spending across categories like housing, food, transportation, healthcare, entertainment, education, insurance, and more because those are the real areas shaping household budgets. And that matters because people often underestimate how many small lifestyle upgrades have become fixed monthly obligations. The economy may be difficult, but people are also trying to survive inflation while funding an image. And image is expensive. It really is. And I really, for me, I would definitely feel very guilty if I was to look at myself on the internet and know that in real life I'm miserable, I'm this, I'm that. I used to actually get offended when I used to innocently post on Instagram just food because I love food. I love cooking. I love cooking, and but I also love trying food from people who can cook because it's kind of like artists listening to other people's music. And what I find in them situations is that when I used to post the food, people would be like, "Oh, you always living it up. Oh, you just living so good." I stopped posting because of that because I never said any of those things, and it was I used to post at places like Cheddar's or Chili's. These people, I had never been at a 5-star restaurant and posted it online to nobody, so it's just strange. I don't like it, and the shiny people are not always winning. Common environments often praise whoever looks shiny, who is traveling, dressed up, always moving, buying, posting, booked, outside, glowing, being seen. But being seen is not the same as being stable. Some people are shining under financial pressure. Some people are traveling on credit. Some people are always on the move because still sitting still will force them to hear their own thoughts. Some people are admired by the same crowd they're secretly drowning in front of. But because society rewards the appearance of motion, many people confuse movement with progress. They finish one lap exhausted and then look around confused, like, where's the rest? That's is because life is not one lap. You do not win in adulthood because you got the job or because you bought the house, or you don't win growth because you had one breakthrough, or win financially because you made one good check. You don't win emotionally because you had one calm week. The race keeps changing, and this is where people get tricked by overnight success stories. They see the person blow up online, they see the artist get famous, the entrepreneur grow viral, the actor become a star. Which, first of all, Hollywood, if y'all have not noticed, let me spoil it for you. Those people are just representatives for whoever they're working for. Like, they're meant to entertain you. That's why it's imperative to be attractive in Hollywood. It's imperative to look a certain way because it's meant for your attention. Those people, like, they are human beings, but the people you see are not real people. That's why when you see the real them, it's always shocking to y'all because it's a job. They're just highly paid employees. Most of them don't even own a lot of the stuff they have. And they've been telling y'all that for a long time. But anyways, they see the investor make the big move. They call it overnight. Many of these people work for years, sometimes decades. They were practicing when nobody cared. They were failing when nobody clapped. They were improving when nobody noticed. They were building range before the opportunity arrived. People love the harvest because it is visible, but they ignore the seasons of planning, then wonder why their own life feels stuck. And that actually is one of the indicators of somebody faking it. If a person does not have evidence of an actual harvest and planting to harvest, majority of that stuff be falsified because for people, money is important, but some people don't realize attention is more important than money. Because if you spending your money to get to do things that get you attention, that means attention is at the top of the food chain. Whatever stops you is at the top. Attention is what stopped the people because once they have everything they need and they continue fighting to get more and more things to be seen by people, that's what it is. And also attention is stuff that the businesses use on y'all too. That's why whenever people online bashing stuff, instead of filing lawsuits privately, you're giving that business press. That's why infamous is a word. That's why notorious is a word, because you can still have negative fame and people will still rock with that. There are people in society that support everything that they see that you hate. If they see that you don't like a restaurant, they are going to go support them. They see everything on the internet, and I think that a lot of people online, when they post on the internet, they brain subconsciously believe that the world is them. Like every viewer is going to be their brain. Every viewer brain is going to receive and react the same way their brain does, and it doesn't work that way at all. But they keep demanding fruit from seeds they never wanted watered our planet. And people in fear are easy to control. Fear makes people easy to guide, not always by force, sometimes by comfort. People in fear will often run toward whatever appears safe, even if the safe thing is shrinking them. A familiar job that underpays them, a relationship that drains them, a family system that shames growth, a friend group that bonds through complaining, a belief system that makes helplessness feel noble, a career path they hate but understand, a consumer product that soothes the wound it helped create it. And for me personally, I experienced all of those things at one point in time. And sometimes in some eras in life, I was experiencing all of them. And what I noticed is that my my allegiance to those things was due to the perceived idea of loyalty, of being the most loyal person alive and the person with the most integrity, only through trial and error to see that a lot of the people that benefited from said loyalty and integrity were not the same. And a lot of the people that verbally and publicly praise all of these different morality and all of these other things, those people are projecting to cover who they really are. Like when people are overly towards something, or like trying to make themselves be higher than mighty, and were the kind of people that instilled in my mind that all of these different things I just mentioned, familiar job, relationship, blah blah blah, that it was normal to stick with those things, that meant that you were a strong person, and all of these other stupid ass quotes that people be making and they don't even know where they got them from. And that's how control works, not always through chains, even though it's ironic that so many people, the first thing they do is get jewelry and one of them be chains. Sometimes through emotional dependency. If a person believes everything is failing, they will cling to anything that promises certainty, even false certainty. And that creates a market. Fear sells, financial fear sells, beauty, health, religious, relationship, career fear sells. Fear is one of the easiest emotions to monetize because fear demands immediate relief. And immediate relief is usually expensive. This is why financial literacy has to be more than math. It has to include emotional literacy, because if you do not understand your fear, someone else can package it and sell it back to you. FNRA's, is that a I? Yeah, FINRA's 2024 National Financial Capability Study found that more US adults were feeling strained from rising costs. More was spending more than they earned, and the share who always paid credit cards in full had dropped by 6% since 2021. That is not just a money issue, that is a decision making issue, because when people are financially stressed, they often make decisions from survival mode, and survival mode is not where long-term wisdom lives. Also too, look at how many people doing concerts. Concerts have always been a thing, but anyone who has been alive for the last 20 years as like at least a child from an adult, like with a child brain or an adult brain for the last 20 years, you see that these people is coming out the woodwork with these concerts, and people just coming out with things to sell because they see that people are in such of an emotional disarray that now is the time to eat up their pockets. Like people will be complaining about gas prices, but will spend $15,000 at Coachella. Granted, gas prices are something that should be cheaper. However, the work that needs to be done to get that, to make that a reality, is never done by the people complaining. That's my issue. I really feel like when it comes to taking an issue that you're experiencing and turning it into words for a person or for social media to hear, you need to be making sure that you're doing everything you can to stop the leak. That's like being on a ship in the middle of the ocean and the ship is leaking and you call the Coast Guard saying, help, the ship is leaking water, we're going to sink. And the hole is probably this big that you could just plug it in with the stuff they teach you during drills. But you're waiting on the Coast Guard to come get you, which they 4 hours away. You're gonna be then sunk by the time they got there. And that's how a lot of people are walking through life. Like y'all quick to point out the hole in the boat, but y'all sit there and watch the water come in. Like, plug that bitch up. And career tunnel vision keeps people stuck. Also, I have a theory too that for some people, the conditions of a job might connect with, because we allegedly, not allegedly because it's science, but we inherit a lot of stuff from our ancestors. So for people who had slavery in their bloodline, I think that certain work environments trigger their inner slave in them, because the way that people start acting like their job is a plantation that they can't get away from, even if it's probably the lowest paying job in the city, they have more than enough time there that they could be a supervisor anywhere else. But nevertheless, another reason people panic when the economy shifts is because they only think in the language of their current job title. They do not see skills, they do not see labels. A person says, I am a cashier, but they may have customer service skills, cash handling skills, conflict resolution skills, inventory experience, scheduling experience, sales experience, and pressure management. A person says, I'm a cargo handler, but those skills also include logistics, warehouse, shipping, offshore work, rigging, material handling, supply chain, safety compliance, and equipment coordination. The problem is that different industries use different titles for the same job. A cargo handler on land may not know that offshore similar responsibilities might fall under a completely different title. So they search for the job title they already know and miss the job they could equally qualify for. That is not a lack of intelligence. That is a lack of translation. A lot of people need a whole new identity. They need a better vocabulary for the skills they already have. But fear makes people narrow. When things shift, they do not ask, where else can this skill live? They ask, what if this is all I can do? And that question is dangerous, because what if this is all I can do turns a season into a sentence? People have to learn how to audit themselves. What do I know how to do? What problems have I solved? What tools have I used? What environments have I survived? What responsibilities have I carried? What industries use similar skills under different names? What certification would convert my experience into a higher paying category? That is not an adaptation. That is adaptation, not panic. Adaptation. But also, when it comes to switching career fields, some, like, I've worked with people in the beginning of offshore. My first company was paying 120 a day, and I think they bumped it up to like 160 before I left them. But there were people who had been there for 5, 6 years that didn't have as much experience that I had. Well, I had way more experience than I had. I didn't have as much experience that they had. And these people have been making that for however long. But as soon as I left that company, it was already companies paying 200 plus a day. Like, now offshore, they got companies paying 500 a day. But, so that means that my whole journey I had with all of the different growth and stuff, I met people at the beginning of the journey who never left the beginning. Like, that was where they just set up shop. And all of these things are not things of judgment. And if you are that person, is not a thing of shame. But what needs to happen is that needs to be understood that that's what you did. And then it also needs to be pondered whether or not you're okay with that. But honestly, if you are able to find a job that may pay a rate that is mid, but your life is comfortable for it, that's all you need. Everyone is not meant to be rich, and everyone will not be rich at all. And also, what is rich? What is rich to you? Because rich is different to everyone. Wealth is different to everyone. Some people may look at people with money as demons and feel like the person who has character and morals over all of that is a better person. But history teaches one lesson over and over again. Nothing lasts forever. The hot economy does not last forever. The bad economy does not. Easy. First of all, though, who is it bad for? Because it's gonna be good for somebody. If stocks is dropping, that means hedge funds is winning. If stocks is going up, hedge funds are losing. Bonds do their own little thing. Apartments typically still have a good income coming in because people are always gonna need somewhere to stay. And when it comes to medical is not going anywhere because people will always be sick, especially with the things we do to ourselves and the things that people do to us. So yeah, and then it's like when people use those surface level things, they never have a explanation of where they got it from or what does that mean. But I also find that people just live on the surface. That is why they tell you it's not that deep. Even if they did a illicit betrayal and smiled in your face when you catch them, it's not that deep. Or a person who apologized for some crazy stuff they did and expect you to just let it go, it's not that deep. It is that deep. Everything is that deep. And that is why life is hard because you're on the surface. Everything is at the bottom, baby. The easy job market does not last forever. Cheap money does not last forever. Expensive money does not last forever. Trends does not last forever. Industries does not last forever. Crisis does not last forever. The people who survive frequently are the people with a wardrobe for all seasons. They have cooling for the heat, warmth for the cold, shades for the breeze, gear for the flood. This is not just poetic, it's practical. And we all have access to the internet to where we can educate ourselves and tune into the right things. Like if everything that doesn't add value to our life could be put under the entertainment category, but the entertainment category should not take over the amount of time we spend making ourselves better. Like unless your life set already, you already live on your people property, 50 acres, and you just gonna be a farmhand for the rest of your life because y'all already have everything paid for. Y'all live off the land, you drive a tractor every day, you ride a bicycle through the town and throw newspapers. That's one thing. But the areas y'all be wanting to get to in life, based off of the stuff y'all know now, it's crazy that y'all would even want to be in that area. I wouldn't want younger me to have been overseas with the habits and the mindset I had back then. I feel like everywhere I want to go or could go, I want to grow into being able to end up there naturally because that's just the environment of a person with those habits and with that mindset and who live that way versus forcing myself into different things. And I see that a lot now with people forcing their way into luxury. You forcing your way into luxury, but your house dirty, your car dirty, you dirty. A lot of these men wearing designers and sagging, y'all don't even wipe y'all ass. Like, speaking of wiping asses, y'all get y'all colon checked. Colorectal cancer is taking a lot of men out. And the exam don't start until a certain year, but people are dying in their 20s and 30s. Get checked for cancer, guys. Men, I know women, they go to the doctor a lot, even though that's an ignorant statement to make because every woman doesn't go to the doctor and every man doesn't want to go to the doctor. But that's the language people speak online. So I'm just speaking their language. And a financial wardrobe means that you have more than one way to survive: an emergency fund, transferable skills, basic investing knowledge, a useful network, low interest debt or less debt. And if you're going to use that for assets. Like that is not the same. If you buying stuff that you like and you putting it into debt, that's just debt. But if you buying something that's going to make you more money and it'll make more than the percentage that you owe on the money you're borrowing, then that's using debt for assets. A realistic budget, the ability to learn, the ability to learn, the ability to learn, the humility to pivot. And if when you hearing educational things, you find yourself emotionally reacting to stuff before you hear the whole thing, I challenge you to purposely start watching content that you completely disagree with, not content that upsets you if you emotionally unregulated, but just something that what would make you talk to the TV, and train yourself to listen for at least a full sentence of what the person's saying before you start talking. Like if the person start off a sentence with Mama Tina Gumbo, a person who heard the story gonna automatically think they know what the person about to say. Just teach yourself to start letting people finish their sentence and actually think about what's being said and think about what you think about that. Not what somebody on the internet told you to think about that, or not with these fake groups of people that, oh, the black group, the gay group. Yeah, none of these people is no fucking groups. Because within these groups of people, that's just groups of people that share the same thing. Skin color, city, state, whatever. It is no, like, if you're going to be a group, you have to be a group. Any of them R&B groups that we used to listen to, when they stopped being a group, they broke up. Like, so when it comes to always like putting, like, adding yourself to the group and, oh, women this and men this, when it comes to, like, even with the Klay Thompson Megan Thee Stallion thing, that is two strangers who having relationship issues, and you have people all over the social media world having heated debates with each other, and given the internet history, I'm sure a few people probably had already fought in person for it. Like, these people, you need to be focusing on your life. Like, if you're gonna look at incidents with people, look at it from a lesson standpoint. Look at the psychology of it. Look at the habits and behaviors of both parties involved. Honestly, not with bias. Because when you looking at situations between people with bias, you're only reinforcing the fact that you small-minded. Because that means that you are the type of people who, no matter what your loved ones do to people, you're going to be that person saying free them. And that type of behavior is destructive in this economy. That's the exact behavior that leads to the stuff that we see online, and we judge the stuff online, but you live in a similar life. Like, the humility to pivot, the discipline to delay gratification, the emotional regulation to not self-destruct when life gets uncomfortable. Baby, people be mad when they don't have paper towels at the gym. And don't even think as an adult to go to the front counter and say, hello, front counter attendant, we need some tissue over there. Like, they'll huff and puff. Grown men, grown women, like, adults as children. Somebody convince me otherwise. I even find myself every now and then peeping in on the clips of content with different categories with adults and opinions and looking at comments. I understand that that is not the majority, but it is a larger number of people that are fucked up in the head and that walk among us, and that is a problem within itself. And most people do not lose because life changed. They lose because they mourn their pa was a loser. They lose because they only had one outfit. They had one plan, one job title, income stream, worldview, emotional response, explanation, person to blame. And when the season changed, they were spiritually standing in a snowstorm, wearing summer clothes, yelling at the weather. But the financially literate do not worship the weather. They check the forecast, then they adjust. Yes, every time I had to go back to the drawing board, if I had to, like, if I knew I didn't like a job no more, when I started the job hunting process, I always started with fast food because I didn't care. If I had a plan, that plan was gonna work regardless. Because the plan wasn't about the job. The plan was about the money from the jobs and what I was going to do with it. That's why whenever I used to have plans for certain stuff, I would temporarily work a second job for a few months and then lose all my club friends because they so addicted to the club and being alcoholics and sleeping with each other, men and women, and being in drama and beefing on Facebook over the same dick and pussy, that me working two jobs was just too inconvenient for them because I just had to be there. The life of the party just can't miss a day at the club. And there was never a point in history where the majority of society won. That's cynical, nihilist, but it's honest. For most of history, knowledge was gatekept. Information belonged to institutions, wealthy families, certain schools, certain libraries, certain social circles, certain industries, and certain rooms that most people were never invited into. But the internet changed something. It did not make life easy, but it made access different. You can learn almost anything now. I've actually been studying the piano for free. Like, yeah, you can study finance, coding, marketing, business, psychology, history, a trade, or you can get you a trade. You can connect with someone across the world. You can sell a product without a storefront. Or you can scam a product without a storefront. You can make money without leaving your home. People who remember paying for long distance calls understand how insane this was. There was a time when connecting across distance had a cost you could hear on the phone bill, or a time when you had to wait to 9 p.m. for free nights and weekends. And then they had T-Mobile and Sprint started competing, and they came up with the free nights and weekends after 7. And then I think T-Mobile or somebody alley-ooped the other one, and they had a bonus feature where certain plans could get free nights and weekends after 4 p.m. Like, I used to have, my first phone was a 40-minute pack for $40 a month, and it included 400 minutes, free nights and weekends, and like 100 text messages sent and received, which is crazy to think about nowadays. And now people can build audiences, businesses, friendships, communities, careers from a device in their hand. But here is the tragedy. The same device that unlocked the world has become the greatest distraction machine ever created. And now it has our poor people addicted to everything under the sun. They didn't even slipped in gambling on the children's apps, but they use the legal loophole because people don't read, so they don't even know none of this stuff. People have access to more knowledge than ever, but many are more distracted than ever. There are breakthroughs happening in medicine, artificial intelligence, energy, education, finance, and technology. But the recurring public conversations are often who is famous, who is dating who got exposed, who said what, who's the villain today, which political figure should we fear, which existential threat should we obsess over this week. People are emotionally worn down by constant alerts, constant drama, constant comparison, constant outrage, and constant selling. And when they're worn down long enough, dysfunction starts to feel like home. Let me stop. They do not just live in dysfunction. They decorate it. They build condos in it. They hang curtains in it, Gucci curtains. They start saying things like, "This is just how I am. This is just how life is. People like us do not get ahead. Everything is rigged. Nothing ever works out. You cannot trust anybody. The economy always bad. It's been bad for 3 generations in my family. My grandma had to struggle. My grandma had to sweep sidewalks, even though the sidewalk was muddy. She had to sweep until she could see the cement at the bottom, and then somebody would come by with a bucket of sand and throw it, and then somebody would come by with a bucket of water and say, "Clean it up, bitch." Okay, negative environments recruit people. Negativity spreads because it offers belonging. When someone is temporarily down, they're vulnerable and they're a crybaby and they're weak and they be wanting to pull other people down. They may have lost a job, lost money, a relationship, confidence, direction. And if they land in the wrong environment, temporary pain can become a permanent identity. They meet people who say, "See, that's how life is. Don't even try. People always switch up. Jobs do not care about you. Money is impossible. Everybody's fake. The economy's bad. Nothing's matter." Jobs don't care about you. That's true. But you should care about yourself more. The same way that scammers come around y'all and already have a plan on what they're going to take from you, you need to start having that for these jobs. But also understand some jobs are more important, even if the pay is low. If you work in any form of food, you are important. You do not know how many homeless people who have functioning homeless people y'all feed a day at these companies. You do not know how many people just got put out their mama house, who just got put out of whatever. You don't know how many people probably just came from being, abused in some kind of way, or just got out of county jail for something they didn't do. And so when you work in these places where y'all are interacting with people, y'all are just as important. I'm always on the customer behind for being nasty to people who work places, but for the people that work places, especially New Orleans, baby, y'all attitudes. If you can't at least be cordial, like you ain't even got to be like Chick-fil-A or like the old Sonic where they used to pull up to your car on skates. If you know, you know. Like you ain't got to do all that, but you hoes don't even be speaking to people. Y'all be having some nasty attitudes. Y'all unprofessional. Y'all be getting orders wrong. The places, the businesses, the gyms, everywhere is poorly kept. Bathrooms filthy. Y'all don't show up on time. God forbid in New Orleans, so many businesses every year got to fire people around Mardi Gras time because catching beads is more important than keeping a roof over your head, because the party life is just that important in New Orleans. Even though we party every week for any given reason, that one particular party, you just can't miss that at all. Like, otherwise you just not, you're not a New Orleanian anymore. You're from New Orleans, not New Orleans. And at first it feels comforting, because when you're hurting, someone validating your pain feels like love, but not all validation is healing. And that is why I believe that people are quick to come to the internet with their pain. And it's because in the past they probably got the validation they needed, but then it'd be that one wrong time. But it's like, it's what amazes me is that people know how to vent. They'll do it every day, they'll do it all day. But for some reason, therapy is just out the window for them. It'll be different if it was a person who just was stoic, closed off, kept everything to themselves, and they just don't, and you trying to get them to go to therapy and they have a hard time opening up. But you people be open like the old Walmarts, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Waffle House during a storm, because Waffle House is supposed to not close allegedly, but I'm sure the ones out here would, because them people don't be wanting to be at work. But y'all be so open, but y'all need to go open on the chair and for the people who are habitual trauma dumping, venting, all of that complaining, you motherfuckers need to be sentenced to therapy. And every time you have a problem with a therapist, go to another one. You need to stay in therapy, because there's too many of y'all with these repeated problems. Y'all be wanting people to hear about the same old men and women, or the friend that you've been dragging for years, or the family member that you get into it with all of the time. Nigga don't want to hear all that. Like, and people try to be supportive to them kinds of people, but those kinds of people literally have nothing to offer, because if you happen to be supportive of them, you're probably someone who regularly has their shit together. But that moment you need them, haha, they never gonna be there for you. And it's never for the things that you give to them that you ask for back. It be stuff that you feel like they give away to other people anyway. They give an ear to anybody anyway. They give a support, So honestly, until y'all meet yourselves and start healing and growing yourselves, y'all gonna be forever stuck in these cycles of depending on other people for validation and for acknowledgement of your existence. And as long as that happens, all of these issues that people be having, you're always gonna be a part of it, because you're not driving your own ship. You're in a carpool with other people, so you taking their routes. Because when you're hurting, someone validating your pain feels like love. Not all validation is healing. Validation can be a trap. Some people do not help you climb out of the hole. They just make room for you in it. And because complaining creates instant connection, it can feel like intimacy. Gossip flows, complaints flows, doom flows, sarcasm flows, cynicism flows. But bring up positivity, subject change. Bring up accountability, defensiveness. Bring up planning, excuses. Bring up growth, sarcasm. Bring up financial literacy. I know I need to learn that. Then nothing changes. I'm gonna try not to be redundant in videos, but I've mentioned this before about that. And the quick Cliff Notes version would be, I started my financial literacy journey in 2017 officially, I think. Maybe 16. Maybe hell, the years might change. I'm Erica Kurt. But when I tell you the amount of people who I offered to come along, and it wasn't even me putting no money together, it was just me learning different things, and I learned it in bits and pieces. And then I also used to share the apps that I was using, because a lot of the different apps, the financial apps, had little sections where they had little 101s. You 5 minutes of learning, 5 minutes of crypto, 5 minutes of this for free. So I'm just reading because I like to read. I could read pretty quickly according to Goodreads. And so when I tell you nobody wanted to do none of that, but as my progress started happening, oh, it must be offshore. It was always something else as to why my finances started looking better. It was offshore, or it was I don't have kids, or it's because you always gone. It's everything but the fact that I just put down discipline and owned up to my sins, owned up to the fact that after 18, it was my responsibility to learn everything. And given the environment I was created in, you can't really expect much. So I knew that if I wanted to get to the destination that I've reached multiple times, I need to change the way I'm doing things. And this is why people have to be careful about environments where the only conversations that feel natural are negative ones. Because if every conversation requires a villain, eventually your future becomes one too. Not to mention, time flies so quickly, and a lot of people don't look at their friendships and their connections with people. They just look at the fact that it's been there for so long, or maybe they feel like society looks at people who loses long-term friendships. So you end up stuck with people who have influence over your decisions, who, if you decided you wanted to go somewhere for 3 weekends, I mean for 3 day a 3-day weekend to learn cooking, you probably had that friend who always leave their children on the weekend and you got to watch them. Like, I see a lot of people using friends as babysitters to replace them as what they would get their family members to do. But some people don't want support. They want a human dumping ground. Another exhausting part of being around people trapped in doom thinking is that proximity becomes expensive. And I don't just mean financially, I mean emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically, sometimes physically. Because when you are related to these people, dating them, longtime friends with them, working around them, living near them, or regularly connected to them, their mindset does not stay contained inside their life. It spills. And if you're close enough, it spills on you. They want unlimited trauma sessions, unlimited venting, crisis calls, emotional processing, retelling of the same betrayal, anger about the same job, confusion about the same lover, exhaustion about the same apartment, unlimited drama about the same friend group. And here is the part people do not like to say out loud. Even licensed therapists have limits. Therapy sessions have time limits. Therapists have boundaries and policies and professional discretion. So when treatment is no longer productive, appropriate, or sustainable, professionals may end the therapeutic relationship according to ethical standards, proper notice, and continuity of care responsibilities. But in personal life, people are expected to have endless grace. Family is expected to understand. Baby, I've had family members complain about the same things for so long, and you supposed to just listen to it. You can't say shit. You can't tell them, hey, you realize you've been going through this for however many long. Friends are expected to be there. Like, honestly, though, I've had a lot of connections in life with people in general, just connections, like just start with connecting with a person. So I could definitely say some good things about what humans are capable of, but I think that I don't want to mix messages, because this message is about a person growing themselves to be able to properly navigate society. And it's also getting that false idea that you live like that the world is safe. It's not safe. You make it safe. Like, the tiger and the lion are always safe because unless it's a poacher, nobody could touch them. You have to go from being the bird, the chicken, the bottom of the food chain. When the less you know in environments where there's predators, then that's the more prey you become. That's like when it comes to like financial predators. Think of the places that they would be or the ways that they come in. Think of people who try to get you to, I don't know. Anyways, but partners are expected to absorb. The emotional mature person is expected to keep regulating the emotional chaotic person. And if you finally say, I cannot keep doing this, then somehow you become the villain. I don't say that anymore. Younger me used to try to do the things that everyone claims they want people to do, which is address the situation, address it with love, address it with understanding. Baby, when people down bad and you got to tell them they down bad, they already knew they was down bad. They already justified it in their head some kind of sick twisted way, and they're going to fight with you when you tell them that. Or they'll desperately try to bring up stuff that you did long ago, which for me, I really be chilling. So people be having to go back into the time for me to actually try to throw something in my face, but it's not thrown in my face because I'm presently telling you something you're presently doing. You didn't tell me whatever that shit was. And in some instances, people have actually made up shit that didn't even happen. Or they mixed up people. They've said I did stuff that somebody else did. But so always be the villain because this is not a Marvel movie. This ain't no good person, villain, bad person. Just like y'all think, oh, it's a good guy. Okay, have fun with that. Like people are people. It's people. Each person has their own unique set of habits and character traits and things over time that they will show you. Sometimes you can see it in real time if they don't realize that you're watching them. But yeah, no, cut that out. And you are cold, you change, you think you're better, you forgot where you came from, you're not loyal, you're a fake, you're abandoning them. And when it comes to those types of situations, just give yourself the title already. I'm cold, change, better, forgot where I came from, not loyal, fake, and I abandoned them. All of those are true. That's facts. What's next? Like for me, honestly, when it comes to stuff like that, it used to bother me when I cared about the people and they would do stuff like that. Like, how dare you feel negatively about me when I give so much to you and I want you to win? And, you know, yeah, but you make it out like if I'm just such a burden, but literally you live off of me type shit. And those people will quickly say, well, when people do stuff for people, they don't speak on it. So what do I do? If you say I'm a nothing ass person and I'm this, and this, I'm supposed to just take that? Like if I funded your whole life, I can't say I funded your whole life because if I was a good person, I'll keep that a secret. But who does that benefit? That benefits you that you're able to portray that you have access that somebody else gave you while simultaneously pissing on the name of that person. But honestly, I realized that unless you in some type of mutual agreement that you doing something for somebody and they doing something for you or some type of mutually beneficial situation, them situations where you up here thinking you doing stuff for people and people do not care. Like maybe children, if you took after a child or took care of a child with neglectful parents, so many of those, but and that child grew up to appreciate you, that might be different. But when it comes to full grown adults who own people they can't count on, or the people they fell out with, or they people may be toxic, or the people who they can't count on their friends or they drag the people for you, so fuck what people feel. Be the villain. Like, who cares? As long as it does not put you in a situation where it's taking away your livelihood, your housing, and resources. Baby, when it comes to your personal life, you need to be more protective over it. Treat it like how them animals that live in caves be treating their caves. You know how many people go missing in caves? Because them animals say, bitch, come, I'm about to eat you. You came in my house, that mean dinner here. Delivery, DoorDash. But no, seriously, like y'all really need to be more protective over your life, yourself, but also for some of the people, because I don't think every single person that watch my video is just going to be a person who's innocent in the situations that they're dealing with. So you also have to like silently understand the things you may have done to people. You may be somebody that is emotionally aggressive or lie a lot or always leaving people hanging, or you might be one of them people who always late. But it'd be like buku late, like 2-3 hours late to everything, and it's always this long, detailed excuse. But then you could sit around all day when you're not going anywhere, but when it's time to go somewhere, you late. Like you're weird. Anyways, so people stay, not always out of love, sometimes out of fear of social decline, being misunderstood, losing connection, being painted as the bad person, fear of people saying you cut them off when they needed you. Okay, and you should have cut them off. Baby, that's one thing. You can never tell me about my relationship with nobody else because, bitch, if it matter that much, you go be there for them. You put on this Grogu hat and a beard and go be the Jeremiah of their life. Like, I don't. The reason why people tell y'all shit is because y'all listen. I don't listen to that shit. So you stick it out. You listen. You comfort. You encourage. You support the venting. You try to slowly introduce the long term solutions. You say maybe you should leave that job. They say they stay, and then they say maybe that relationship is hurting you. They go back. You say maybe that friendship is not healthy. They refriend the same person. A lot of times too because they're not healthy. Like we loving them and giving them all of their good qualities, and people be trying to make us love people into being delusional. But depending, like I say, depending on our upbringing, some people like myself just refriended their family members and different people. So for me, a lot of the connections I was making was because of the familiar patterns that people had and the familiarity it felt in my brain. And that's why the genuine connections I did build off of time and place were stronger than the ones of people who reminded me of people, because all I was doing was just reinforcing the same toxicity in my own life. And given for me, I would say maybe two instances I know for sure I was down bad in situations. But even in those situations, it's like, what's the point of me owning up to my sins when motherfuckers be having the whole graveyard and acting like they the patron saint of protection? And you say maybe you should stop renewing the lease if every month it gives you a new crisis. They renew the lease and be there for decades. You say maybe you need a plan. They say I know and then change nothing. And sometimes you do more than listen. You start giving resources, your time, money, rides. My first car, I think within the first year, I had to use over 20,000 miles giving rides. Mm-mm-mm. Your research, your connections, your energy, your emotional stability, your mental space, your own maintenance. You pull from assets you need to maintain yourself just to push for somebody else's breakthrough. And then they reoffend. They go back to the same lover. They return to the same toxic friend. They stay in the same chaotic work environment. They keep renewing the same destructive lease. They keep calling about the same problem like it appeared yesterday. And after a while, you realize something painful. Some people do not want a breakthrough, they want a witness. And baby, the part still goes on, but if y'all give them people more than a decade of your life, you're gonna be mad with yourself. Those kinds of people are a cancer. And if it's more than one person like that, you need to check yourself, because you may already be like them and don't realize it, because it's easier to see other people wrong than it is our own, because we in our own head all of the time. So we already know why we do what we do, but it's easy to judge other people because we don't know the whole story behind the action. But those kinds of people is contagious. Not to mention people who have those traits. They are like, I don't know if it's like a bacteria or something that get in their brain to where those people be so similar to each other. But I find that people with all of those different ways of going back to the same level, returning to the same toxic friends, staying in the same work environments, renewing a destructive lease. God forbid if they do all multiple of those things at once, those people be very two-faced. They are full of drama. It's never anyone else's fault. They the type always need something from you, or always telling you what they did for other people, which lets you know that they probably telling you stuff too. Especially if you are privy to things about people that's closer to them than you, baby, they telling everything about you, or they just saying shit about you. And my thing is, for that, I honestly don't give a fuck what people got to say stuff. But if you're gonna talk about me and be in my face, make that shit count. Like if it's something that we did together and you venting to a person, I give you that. But if you just dragging for me and going against stuff that you say to my face, you're weird. And so many people do that. Like, and they swear they don't. That's why if you have it in you to be an introvert, do it. Be an introvert, keep your social life, but be very, very strategic with your social life. If you're gonna be social when you go to the gym, do that and then go home. If you're gonna kiki with your coworkers, do that, then go home. If you're gonna have friends that you go to the club with, don't think that they're gonna be your friends when you're going through stuff, or don't think that's gonna be the people that can help you move. Because no. And also define what a friend is to you. Think about the times that you felt the most nurtured in a friendship, and compare that to the things that you may need, and come up with that, and stand on business of what you need in your life. Stop rocking with people who ain't serving your best interest. I'm sure many people can relate to being ghosted by people, whether it be family, friends, or somebody who just randomly just either turned on you, blocked you, disappeared, died, whatever. So you know how that feels. So the fact that A lot of y'all be staying in these situations worrying about how people feel, or if it's a company you work for, oh, they gonna need people if I quit. Fuck them people. Like literally, y'all get fucked every day because y'all don't say fuck them. Or maybe you don't curse. For me, do I curse? In real life, it depends, but not really. But every now and then, just to make sure I still got it. And they want a witness. They want someone to watch the cycle with them. They want someone to validate the pain without requiring transformation. They want emotional relief, not emotional responsibility. And this is why being close to doom-minded people can be so draining. And if you grew up in impoverished areas, that's probably your family and your friends and your work environment. See, this is the thing. Like these people are everywhere. But I see that people who were raised off survival tend to have it more. Now, granted, the likelihood of a person in poverty being raised off survival is higher, but that does not guarantee that a person may be raised in survival. There can be wealthy people that was raised on survival because maybe the generation before them experienced a huge loss, and then a lot of those habits trickle down into them. So it doesn't really matter where you come from. Like the mindset could be whatever. That's why you see how people can become wealthy, and like 50 Cent, he has been navigating wealth for the past 20 plus years, regardless of what y'all be hearing in the news, because if you actually did the research, it don't be what it looked like most of the time. But he's maintained his wealth. But when you see all these other people with wealth, they come in and they blowing it on stuff. And it be the craziest stuff, which is funny because it's always ways of getting that stuff for free, especially for social media people that spend money. It's funny because if you knew the right people to talk to, you can get that on brand deals. But anyways, and some of them have an inability to be satisfied. It could have came from long-term conditioning, childhood dysfunction, never seeing peace modeled, being raised in homes where chaos was normal and felt suspicious. But wherever it came from, the effect is the same. You can take them out for a day. You can plan relaxing activities. You can pay for food. You can create peace. Give them a break from life. Sit with them. Listen. Show up. And somehow, by the end of the day, they're online posting. Nobody is ever there for me. And you're sitting there like, was I a hologram? Emotional catering, background furniture? Was I unpaid for your healing aesthetic? That is when you start to see the difference between someone who is hurting and someone who has built an identity around being supported. Because some people do not want to acknowledge who is actually there for them. They want to preserve the story that no one is. And that story gives them something. It gives them sympathy, attention, excuse, a role, a reason not to change. Some of them will never mention you publicly. And that's why you have to thank for the people who givers and people pleasers. Think about all of them different times you went the extra mile for a person. That shit is in history. That's in your mind. You may never hear about that again unless the person come back and need a new favor. But that, like, all of this stuff that people be making y'all feel pressure to do, to where you neglecting yourself, you neglecting sleep to go out for these hoes or these motherfuckers. You up here staying up late to text this person on the phone who barely could come see you. Like, when I tell y'all, like, it's, you have to do the work first. But when you start seeing the progress of a health, like really dictating your own life, it's a different world, like, than where we come from. But yeah, it's really a different world. Like, I promise, I don't make promises, but you just have to get here first. But can you make it here is the question. Like, can you? Because the roadblocks be roadblocking, especially again, if the people in question are related to you or people that you feel pressure from, or maybe it's a person, you may be a big boss in your city, but when you get around this one person, you just go back to being that little child you was. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. They will hide the person who shows up consistently while flaunting the people who look good beside them. You become the secret friend, the private therapist, the crisis contact, the person who they vent to who they vent to about all their public friends. But when major events happen and you show up, nobody knows who you are. You're standing there like a deleted scene from their life. Everybody else is in the trailer. You are in the behind the scenes footage. And that tells you something, because there are people who value your presence, but only in private. Shout out to the download men. They want your debt, but not your visibility. They want your loyalty, but not your association. They want your support, but not your acknowledgement. They want you available, but not included. Another version is the person who brings you places as an emotional anchor. They want you there because you make them feel safe, but once you arrive, they barely engage you. Like the people who always having events and invite you there, and majority of people you don't know, and you just be sitting there by yourself looking stupid. Then when you leave, where you in? I've been looking all over for you. They leave you in a room full of strangers, disappear in the crowd, then act shocked when you leave early. They did not bring you to share the experience. They bought you to regulate their nervous system. You were not invited, you were assigned. Then there is the seat filler friend, the person who cycles through friends groups but keep you nearby as a backup connection. When their social life is flourishing, they become distant. When the new group is exciting, they forget to check in. When they are being included, celebrated, and invited, you barely exist. But when the group falls apart, when they get exposed, when they feel rejected, when they're lonely again, suddenly they're calling more. Suddenly they miss you. Suddenly they want to hang out. Suddenly they're deep again until the next group arrives. And then the cycle repeats. Different people, different stories, same mindset. And what many of them share is not just bad behavior, it is a relationship with dysfunction, a familiarity with instability, a childhood where a major dysfunction happened but was either denied, normalized, or turned into an identity. And y'all are re-raising the current kids the same way that y'all were raised. Y'all may have switched the environment so you feel like it's different, but the same emotional and psychological things that you experience, you repeating it with your children. It was not that bad. That is just how our family is. That is just our culture. That's just how the city is. That is just how the neighborhood is. That's just how people are. But that explanation starts falling apart when you look closer, because every family is not like that. Every culture is not like that. Every city is not like that. Every neighborhood is not doomed to be that. And when people normalize dysfunction long enough, they stop seeing how fixable layers are being neglected. Crime gets normalized, neglect gets normalized, bad schools, poor maintenance, emotional chaos, financial irresponsibility, broken families, toxic loyalty. Then when outside forces come in and change the environment, people only see the injustice. Sometimes there is injustice. Gentrification can absolutely displace people. Investors can absolutely exploit distressed communities. Systems can absolutely neglect neighborhoods until they become cheap enough to buy. But there's also another layer to avoid. Some of the decline was not mysterious. Some of it was fixable. Some of it was neglected for years. Some of it came from collective avoidance. Some of it came from people treating dysfunction like culture. They still do. That's like in New Orleans. It's so many properties that are for sale in New Orleans that's pretty reasonable in the New Orleans area. And the people who are locals, they're not in a position to buy it. So it's like, is it just gonna sit there forever? I mean, they do have certain cities that end up like ghost towns, but what ends up happening? Somebody with money come invest and flip, because the whole point of investing is to flip. I think the reason why it's easier to be inconvenienced by gentrification, because you're at the bottom of the gentrification food chain. Like, I get that this country has a history of racism and they may even have different things still going on now. However, there's way too many people of minority groups that are wealthy, that are in that business, to disprove the fact that it's just not possible. Like, but that's a different thing. Some of the decline was not mysterious. Some of it was fixable. Some of it was neglected for years. Like right now, the public be so confused on what they want to point the finger at, whether it be celebrities, politics, the youth. The youth have gone mad. I remember in my day, we were respectful children. Says the person who used to get put out of class every day. Anyways, some of it came from collective avoidance. Some of it came from people treating dysfunction like culture. Some of it came from communities refusing to confront what was destroying them until someone else saw the low price and moved differently. Like my community, with all these kids riding these motorized vehicles with no helmet. When these kids start dying because the cars go 60 and a 20, the kids don't be looking. People walk in the street. People be texting and crossing streets. Every time people die, everybody stop and pretends to be shocked. But it's like all of this is preventable. Like that does not excuse exploitation, but it does expose the cost of denial. Because when people refuse to maintain themselves, their relationships, their families, their money, their emotional health, and their environment, somebody else eventually assigns a value to what they neglected. And investors do what investors do. They look for undervalued assets. The same thing happens in personal life. If you do not value your peace, chaotic people will use it. If you do not value your time, draining people will consume it. If you do not value your emotional energy, people will treat you like a free utility. If you do not value your future, impulsive people will invite you into their consequences. They love doing that. This is why boundaries are not cruelty. Boundaries are maintenance. But like many other psychological terms that become popular and used regularly on social media, the people who are not self-aware, that's probably going to be a trigger word to them. That's just my boundaries. You cannot keep being the free therapist, emergency fund, emotional anchor, secret friend, backup plan, audience member, driver, counselor, reputation manager, spiritual janitor, an unpaid life coach for people who keep choosing the same fire and crying about the smoke. Shout out to the smoke detector beeps. At some point, compassion without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. And the hardest part is that these people may really be in pain. They may really have trauma, really have been failed, really have grown up in dysfunction, but they continue in the cycle. Once you in your 20s and 30s and you've seen enough of the world and you still on the same train, it's like can't complain about the destination. Get off. Does not automatically excuse the repeated harm of behavior, especially when that behavior starts draining people who are trying to grow. People do not care about you trying to grow. Like words, remove the words and only look at the actions. People will say, "Oh, I'm so happy for you," but then proceed to always throw shade at you or to say, "Oh, I've been wanting you to win." But every time you were working on that same thing that you finally won at, that person was telling you how unimportant it was. And, "Oh, you can't just do it later." Or, "Oh, what about us?" And support can mean sacrificing your own future to fund someone else's cycle. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop participating in the pattern, not because you hate them, but because you finally realize that being close to someone does not mean becoming the landfill. Or maybe you realize that you robbed yourself of actual peace because you up here thinking that what a thing one for that mental shell has its often boundaries are maintenance. Oh, see, I be getting behind the slides, but it like when it comes to these types of relationships, when we have had them for so long, we normalize them and it's not normal. Relationships should be beneficial to you. Like the people have programmed everyone to accept the bare minimum by feeling like having standards is so evil. Oh, you want more from a friendship, you user, you abuser. But no, people like baby, people get the best out of you. Jobs don't want you coming there when you weak. They want you working. Places don't want rip money from you. They want your full money. Like when you owe a balance and they want that balance at that one time, they don't accept you to pay them back whenever you feel like it. So why should you have your life built like that? And that's what it boils down to. But see, this is the thing. People can easily discuss all of these things I mentioned, but what are you gonna do about it? Like, let's talk in more action and start owning stuff. It's okay to be flawed. For me, I used to know that one of my younger flaws was the fact that I was 50-50. Like, if a person met me one way, but like was doing things negative towards me. And for me, I let stuff build up because I know that I go too far. And I do that intentionally so that when I do go too far, we have a whole route of all of the areas you had me fucked up at that I told you about. And I'm only gonna tell you once. I'm not about to, oh, you did it again. Hey, you did it again. Hey, you did it again. Present day, nobody around me is even able to touch me to be able to do shit. But back then I used to just like reacting. Then people, my flaw would have been that I took it too far. But for me, I didn't. I knew that was a flaw, and I owned it because I'm always gonna take it too far. Because you started the car, I'm gonna take it too far. Simple. That is why the mental shell has to soften, because you cannot drag someone into awareness while they are still emotionally invested in the story. You cannot force someone to see a pattern they're still benefiting from. You cannot make someone choose peace when chaos still gives them attention, identity, sympathy, or control. And you cannot keep donating your life to someone else's refusal to examine theirs. Also, remember previous video, majority matters. When you dealing with these kinds of people, if majority of the people around them is just as messed up, baby, you just gonna have to love them from a distance. Like, if you believe in that, I just feel like just leave. But hey, one of the hardest truths about growth is that you actually, and then one thing that people don't do, us not being around each other or me not wanting you in my close space no more, we can still be cool, but just like don't reach out to me. If we see each other, I'll give you a hug and everything. But all that trying to keep in touch, the whole reason I'm distancing from you is because this is a worthless connection. Like, it's more than likely the average person that I used to just blindly connect to, which is people who small talk, who may have one strong point that we connect with, which most of the people who I had that one strong point with, that connection ain't even applicable for me anymore. So after that's gone, there's nothing left. And then they come into you with all their problems because you're reliable. They getting whatever they can from you while they telling you how they do for other people so they could feel better about you doing for them. But when you really look at it, they don't show up for you. They barely show up for you. They'll do the bare minimum. They will take a whole building from you and then send you a brick in the mail as a gift. Like a whole high rise. But nevertheless, that's me projecting. And you cannot keep donating your life to someone else's refusal to examine theirs. One of the hardest truths about growth is that you actually cannot force people to see themselves. You can't. I promise you cannot. And sometimes you may accidentally do it. Well, and them people, baby, look, it's like Resident Evil. Like you finding out somebody's a zombie. You can explain the pattern. You can show the evidence. That is why younger me used to be Mr. Receipts, because people would always act like they didn't know they did what they did. And I just would be like, I just want you to see it so we can be closer. I would like to get past this issue so badly. I really don't want it to destroy us. And no, they don't make that easy. You can give the resource, you can offer the solution, you can tell them the door is open. But if their mental shell is still hardened, everything you say will sound like an attack. People who are deeply attached to dysfunction often cannot be informed that they are participating in it. They will defend the same patterns that are hurting them. They will protect the same mindset that keeps them afraid. They will call growth judgment, discipline arrogance, awareness negativity, boundaries betrayal, planning doing too much until something softens them, maybe loss, maturity, exhaustion, therapy, a child, a crisis, a book, one conversation that finally lands, maybe the quiet realization that the same pattern has been wearing different outfits for 20 years. And when the shell softens, they begin to see it. They begin to see the family tree of their traits. They see where their fear came from, where the anger, the spending, the avoidance, doom mindset, distrust, self sabotage. They did not start, this did not start with me. But then it comes to the second realization, it can end with me. Hashtag it ends with us. That is where real power begins, not in blaming your family, not in blaming the economy, not in blaming the government, the job market, your past. You can actually blame the government or the economy, but it's not going to do anything to help you, because unless you're blaming them is the start of you doing something. See, if the speaking doesn't have action, then this you're not going to change. Like if I want to leave my home, but I never walk out the door, I never get in the car or catch the bus or call a taxi, I'm never or start walking at minimum, start walking at least away from my home. I'm never gonna leave. And that's the equivalent of what y'all do. Y'all say I want to go to the store, I'm thirsty, and then you just stand in the door and just watch everybody else go by and be like, oh, I wish I can go to the store. I wish I could save money. I wish I can do this. I wish I can go to Coachella. Like, but in becoming honest enough to say I may not have created every pattern I carry, but I'm responsible for what I keep feeding. Baby, people will blame everything. People will go from blaming their parents to blaming their children. Like a lot of people outsource the structure of their life to the economy. If the economy is good, they feel hopeful. If the economy is bad, they feel helpless. If the president changes, they're It's funny how many y'all be beefed out over these strangers. If prices rise, their discipline disappears. If jobs shift, their identity collapse. But the economy is not your parent. It is not supposed to raise you. It is not supposed to regulate your emotions, give you discipline, tell you who you are, or hand you a purpose. The economy is an environment, and environments matter, but environments do not remove responsibility. If it rains, you still need an umbrella. If it gets cold, you still need a coat. If inflation rises, you still need a plan. If your industry changes, you still need to learn. If your spending habits are hurting you, you still need to look at them. If your emotions are controlling your decisions, you still need to regulate them. And no, that does not mean everyone starts from the same place. Nobody starts from the same place in the grand scheme of things. Because like based off of the way our brain work, like reality is different for all of us. It may be the same or agreed to be the same, but even people in the same household don't start from the same place. Some people are born with more resources, more stability, better networks, safer neighborhoods, parents who taught them money, discipline, and emotional regulation. But unfairness does not cancel strategy, it makes strategy more necessary. And what to do instead? So, what do you do if you recognize yourself in this? What do you do if you inherited fear, if your family speaks fluent doom like mine? No contact. If you're tired of saying I'm going to start and then watching another year pass, start with five things. First, separate facts from feelings. A fact is my rent increased by $200. A feeling is I'm never going to make it. A fact is I have credit card debt. A feeling is I ruined my life. A fact is my job field is changing. A feeling is I have no future. Do not let feelings pretend to be data. Second, build a real budget around your actual life, not your fantasy life, not your Instagram life, not your I deserve it life, your actual life. What comes in, what goes out, what is fixed, flexible, emotional spending, convenience spending, status spending, survival spending. You cannot fix what you refuse to count. Third, learn the basics of financial literacy. You do not need to become Warren Buffett, but you need to understand interest, inflation, credit, debt, taxes, insurance, especially life insurance, and especially on these wild kids y'all have. Y'all, the whole household need life insurance. Emergency funds, investing, retirement accounts, risk, diversification, the time value of money. Stanford's financial literacy work highlights what it calls the big three: compound interest, inflation, and risk diversification. These are foundational concepts for making sound financial decisions. Fourth, translate your skills. Stop asking, what job title do I have? Ask, what problems can I solve? What industry needs those problems solved? What title do they use for that work? What certification would make me more visible? What experience am I undervaluing? Your next opportunity may not use the same words as your last job. Fifth, practice emotional regulation like a survival skill because it is one. Before you make a decision, ask, am I deciding from fear, shame, jealousy, urgency, compassion, loneliness, boredom? If yes, pause. A pause can save you years. But we may never feel completely satisfied with our past at any given time in the future. but just make sure that it's not your fault. Like, that's one thing I like about my life. Anything that is out of my control is out of my control. Like, it ain't even on my mind that is occurring. Like, it's certain days I had to go do important stuff and it was traffic. I just hit up a playlist right quick via Siri because we don't text and drive over here. And I would just chill. And I didn't even think about it. And then once it was over, I realized, damn, if I really would have been aggy about this traffic, it would have felt longer than what it did. But all I did was just focus on the road, look at the different colors of the cars, like just be in the moment of driving. Because first of all, it's my life and it's the lives of the cars around me. And it's me protecting my life because I do more defensive driving than cruising because baby, people, y'all in them phones. It's like every time I say I'm gonna upload the footage, it's way too, man. When I tell you it's a month worth of footage, I'm not playing with that. I barely be like with these videos, I record it and then I upgrade the sound on what them people is Final Cut, Final Ho, Final Pro Ho, and that's it. Because this is me giving information. I'm not here for what people usually be on here for. If it happens, because it is the internet and this is content, I'm gonna be probably, yeah, I'll show you better than I can tell you. That's what I'll say. The economy is not always good, but it is not always the villain. Sometimes the villain is fear, villain is inherited helplessness, villain is emotional spending, refusing to adapt, is a family system that taught you how to panic but never taught you how to plan, is calling everything impossible because impossible feels safer than accountability. And I understand why people do it. Fear is familiar, negativity is easy to bond over. Doom feels intelligent when hope has disappointed you enough times. But at some point you have to ask, is this mindset protecting me? Answer probably gonna be no. Or is it keeping me loyal to a version of life I claim to want to escape? It could also be that people just never thought about their life. Like there are some people out there who life has been so hard for them, they probably didn't have a support system as a kid or as a young adult or at some point to where all they could do is survive. So all they are doing is things based off of emotion and comfort because that's what happens when we're in survival mode. Animals do the same thing. That's why when people who be adopting animals off the street, they notice that they get two different versions of the animal. The animal when they didn't know them and when they scared, and the animal when they realize they safe. Humans do the same thing. We have a lot of traits similar to animals. Like we on a planet, like on a big old rock that spin around. Like be for real. Not to mention when it comes to these types of things, you have to mold your life based off of yours. Like that's why I don't really do vlogs. I be wanting to post cooking to encourage people to cook with all of these trash ass restaurants out here that don't even be worth it. And chicken wings is back $5 for 10 again. So I mean, at the grocery store by me. But the way that every time people see stuff on the internet, it makes them just forget about what they have or make them not like what they have. I'm not participating in that no more at all. Especially when, like I stated an hour ago in this video about how when I used to post on Instagram simple stuff, how people would make it more than what it was, and that was off-putting to me because I'm not here to do that. I actually like to uplift people, but given that we have dangerous people that walk among us, I do have spikes, definitely. But I'm not a person who just be spiking people, like poking people with my spikes. You got to grab me to get poked with the spikes. So, and that's not even nothing to worry about because I don't waste my time on things that's not enjoyable, and I don't enjoy doing stuff to people in defense of myself because history does not show us that everything stays bad forever. History shows us cycles, but history also shows us everything was bad for one side. It don't be bad for everybody. I think Black Death was probably the worst thing because that was like one of the things. But when you look at all of the things we experienced within the last 30 years for the people who've been alive that long, somebody benefited from all of that. The war we having right now, somebody makes money from that. People always making money off stuff. Now, you can look at your own neighborhood and find ways to make money without being a scammer. You can be an ethical person that make money, but it's easier to scam. That's why people start the journey with wanting to be an entrepreneur, but then that spirit of scamming come and be like, these only take 2 steps. You can make it to where you would make it as an entrepreneur, as a scammer in 2 steps versus the 20 steps. And that's when they end up scamming. But if you can, like, it's so many things like childcare. We always gonna need childcare. We always gonna need senior care, especially because a lot of the country is aging. And in the US, I just started this book now that is alleging that we're gonna have over 400 million people in by 2050. So a person who started daycare business now, you're gonna have 20 years, you just got to get your paperwork right. But what I find too is that people often join the race of these things of being a business owner, of being a homeowner, of being a parent, of being a pet owner, but they do it for the look that they saw somebody else having from it. And they try to mimic what they think the person with the look feel and hoping that they feel that way. And that's what people mess up. Because in my experience as being a manager, I see so many business flaws that could easily be fixed, but people just choose not to because, like, some people really have to have a handler, like in relationships, at work, in life. Like, some people really need somebody telling them everything to do. Tell them to wash their ass. Tell them to floss in between their teeth. Tell them to go to the doctor and get their vitamins level checked. Telling them to get checked for STDs, even though they sleeping around a lot. They need people to tell them stuff, and if you that person, you're gonna always lose in life because people only gonna lead you to what benefit them. They're not gonna lead you to win for yourself. But anyways, they have more of this script left, but I feel like this video too long all day already. So y'all have a great night, and yeah, see y'all on the next one. Hopefully it ain't this long.
Like, comment, and subscribe to J New Orleans.